I think to me, being trauma-informed means having an understanding that everybody is shaped by their past experiences, not necessarily defined by any one experience, but that we have all been through things, whether it's trauma or not. And so it's approaching everyone with empathy and openness and curiosity, and not jumping to conclusions, and coming into interactions with people with an understanding that you might not know where they're coming from. You don't know exactly what is driving their behaviors.
It's definitely led to me being, again, more considerate, like being mindful of how I engage others, and anyone for that matter, and just trying to be patient as possible, because we don't know, what anybody's been through.
So being trauma-informed, it takes on a lot of different principles. So I think two of the biggest words for me are really just predictability and transparency. So really being honest and open in the communication that we're having, whether it's in an organization or, with our colleagues, with our clients, with our peers.
Growing up in Brooklyn, not knowing what trauma was, just thinking like, oh, this is normal of things that we see growing up in the neighborhood, kind of got me interested in wanting to learn more about trauma. In undergrad, I was a therapeutic recreation specialist. So I learned about trauma, like what trauma really was in schooling. And I was like, whoa.
So something I have learned about in this work is ACEs, or Adverse Childhood Experiences. And there was a healthcare group, I believe it was Kaiser Permanente, in the mid to late 90s that did a study about ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences, trying to see how many of their patients had experienced ACEs. They had specific categories of experiences that kids might go through growing up, so like abuse, neglect, substance use in the home, like different things like that, and had, I believe, adults take a questionnaire to, just study how many people had gone through these things, and I believe it was over 60% had experienced at least one ACE. It was a pretty shocking discovery at the time. I think now we know that those numbers are not that surprising, but I don't think people realized at the time how prevalent trauma was.
A lot of young people, they don't like to talk about trauma, or they feel like being vulnerable is a bad thing. When they're like in flow with, whether it's like DJing, dancing, writing rhymes, MCing, talking to people, that form of hip hop kind of helps relieve some of that trauma, or helps people like drain off their emotions from trauma.
I think sometimes trauma-informed care can lean a little too heavily on one-on-one relationships, and healing can definitely happen in those spaces, but it can also happen in community. Trauma also can be experienced in community by groups of people. And so I think it's really important to name the systems that are causing the trauma when we're helping people talk about it, understand it, so that we don't put blame on individual people for what they are put through. So yeah, trauma can be systemic, it can be interpersonal, but healing can also happen collectively, which I think is really beautiful.
Again, just that patience, love, respect, kindness for everyone else. Like, have as much patience, honor, and respect for other people's trauma as you would for your own.